Who is Representative David Smith? Well, thank you very much for joining us on another episode of You Can't Make This Shit Up. I'm going to jump right in. We have a special guest, Representative David Smith. He's my representative. I am in one of his business establishments inside his district, so I'm very excited to be here. And he is my representative. Uh, Please introduce yourself, Representative.
Well, great to be with you again. Love doing your show. You guys keep it real and talk about issues that people care about that help folks in our area, especially working families and those kind of things. So, State Representative David Smith, I represent what's normally figured as a Southwest Seminole County. My district remains 100% inside of Seminole County, House District 38. But often you'll hear me talk about Central Florida, because we have so many regional issues: water quality, transportation, healthcare, education. You really have to have a regional focus, and that's what I've tried to do for the 3 terms that I've been in the Florida House of Representatives. So I just finished my 6th legislative session.
Awesome. And I'm gonna let Angelina. She's our political director. I'm gonna let
Hello.
her ask you because our focus is on young people. So I'm gonna let her take it from here for a couple of questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to just thank you so much for being on the show. It is definitely a pleasure for me to meet you, Representative. So thank you so much for that.
Happy to be with you.
Thank you. So my first question is, what is your advice for young conservatives looking to make a difference in the political world?
Boy, I tell you, get involved. When I speak to groups, and I'm blessed having spent a 30-year career in the United States Marine Corps as a pilot, and so I have a good pension there. My health care is covered as a military retiree. So I make being a legislator my full-time job. So I get out and speak to more groups and school tours and business tours and ribbon cutting. So I'm out in the public quite a bit, and I talk to a lot of young people. And I tell them, get involved. Everything you think you know about the political process or campaigns or legislation that you think you know from movies and television, it really doesn't work that way. And if you get involved, you'd see firsthand what we go through to get ideas for legislation from constituents or different groups, and how the process works. And again, nothing like working on a campaign to understand what an elected official, I don't like using the term politician because I'm certainly not one of those, but what an elected official has to go through just to get elected, then to get a seat at the table to make the votes that affect, families and people right there in their district. So it's a lot, but get involved. Find somebody that you want to help, and come see. Get that boots on the ground perspective that we have. I think it helped young people out a whole lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And this goes to my follow-up question. How do you suggest that people get that elevator pitch for themselves?
For them for themselves to get involved, or what do you mean
Oh,
exactly?
yes. So say if they're, talking to an elected official and they're really interested in either working for them or they just want to just get involved in the political field, what would
Yeah,
you suggest for them
I tell you, be willing to serve. Again, politics in particular, it's about having a servant's heart, and so You need people who are willing to work hard on behalf of other people. That's really what we do, is help people, whether it's constituent services or we folks, people call my office every day, asking, hey, you may not be able to help me with this, and sometimes we can, and other times, well, that's a federal issue, but we can connect you with Senator Scott's office. Oh, that's a municipal issue. Let's get you to the right city. So you're a traffic cop, but you're there to help people. And young folks just need to be able to say, hey, I'd like to come learn. Do you have time to sit down for a cup of coffee? And anybody that any elected official that won't make time to have a cup of coffee with somebody, there's something wrong with them. I just say be straightforward. Everybody, oh, you're so busy. No, I'm not. I'm never too busy that I can't make time for somebody.
Nice. Very
Wow.
nice.
I love that perspective. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Now, you just finished a legislative session. Would you please share with our audience some of the bills that you were really proud of that you got accomplished, and then I'm gonna want you to talk about the insurance issue that you to recap where we were the last time we spoke, just briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, so as I mentioned, so this was my 6th legislative session, and I can tell you, no doubt about it, it was absolutely different than the previous 5. It was kind of weird in some ways, where we heard bills in the House that had no Senate companion, which meant there was no chance that bill ever becoming law. So I thought we kind of wasted some time on the House. And those are decisions I think made by other folks, and so we spent some time I thought was inefficient, but we got a lot done. Overall, I would give, if I was grading on a curve, I would give the session a B-, because there was more things I think we could have done. But overall, what did we focus on? So the only one, in the legislature, we only have one constitutional responsibility, and that's to pass a budget, a balanced budget. So expenditures have to match forecasted revenue. And so we came up with a $117.5 billion state budget. So we've sent that to the governor. He has a line item veto ability in Florida, which means he can only cut. He can't add or move money around. But and I do believe Governor DeSantis will veto some stuff. Why? Because that's what Ron DeSantis does. And I think that 117.5 will wind up like 116.999. He'll just knock it down a number. I have no inside baseball knowledge from the governor's office, but I just got a feeling that's what's going to happen. I'm just hoping that none of my 21 projects that I got in the budget for Central Florida get vetoed. But so we passed the budget. We focused most of our spending in 3 main areas where Florida is making investments. That's in education. So we added money to the K through 12 per pupil spending. There's more money per pupil in education today than in the history of the state. You may recall over a couple of years, we've been now creating the leading in the nation universal school choice for parents. Parents can pick what's best, the education that's best for their child. So we've gone back and added money into infrastructure, not only for public schools, charter schools, those kind of things. So we're making these changes, but we're putting the money that we need to execute these programs. So significant investments in education, Bright Future scholarships for high school seniors, fully funded, EASE grants, which is about $3,500, which are typically older, people that are coming back in for re-education, those kind of things in a lot of the private schools. But EASE grants, fully funded, so significant investments in education. The other thing is infrastructure. Education is about our future workforce and those young people going through school. But infrastructure is about also future jobs. And so what do I mean by infrastructure? It's the roads and bridges that we have. It's our airports. It's our seaports. I mean, 17% of our national GDP flows through a Florida port. We're also investing in spaceports. Again, something of the future, and that's Florida's future economy, which is we're making those investments now that are going to pay huge dividends for Florida in the future. But I'll tell you, the other area is the environment. It's cleanup of Lake Okeechobee, Everglades restoration. Here in Central Florida, it's springs preservation and restoration. And these are all essentially campaign promises of Ron DeSantis that go back to 2018. The guy's leadership, he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's led on these issues, and we're making those strategic investments. However, the $117.5 billion state budget, that's down $2 billion. We're spending less than we spent last year. What are we doing with the money? Because Florida's economy is booming. We put more money into savings. Now, what they're called is we have 3 budget stabilization funds, but it's really Florida's savings account. And we've got almost $15 billion in savings. And as we're coming into hurricane season, I'm glad we banked that money, and it was a good thing not to spend it now. So because we've got to be prepared for hurricanes or any other potential economic downturn. That's what we use, hold on to that savings for.
Wow. Representative, again, thank you for appearing on our show again. I really enjoy having you on our show and talking with you. We follow you on social media, and one thing I applaud you for showing us a little bit about your personal life, especially your health routines. I really appreciate that. We're in the midst of a very contentious election cycle, and a very consequential election in November. And it seems to be that abortion is the issue that is going to define the election here in Florida in November. However, many of us are more than just a one issue voter. How do voters get beyond just that one issue and understand, like what you just laid out? I see how robust you've had, a very robust year you've had in delivering for your community. How do Republicans or Democrats who are in office, who are delivering, how do they get beyond just that one issue?
Yeah, there's it's difficult sometimes when you're dealing with some single issue voters, and it's I from time to time we'll have somebody, they'll send me an email about a vote I made, and I'm like, well, I cast 1,000 votes during a session.
Yeah.
From bills and amendments and those kind of things. How'd you like the other 999 that I made? So if you just want to focus on one vote, that kind of narrow focus, I think, is problematic if voters. But they're out there, and I think there's people would like you to believe that abortion's the only issue that's up, and it's not. When you look at people that call my office and they're looking for help, abortion is not what they call me about.
Sure.
And it's about homeowners insurance. It's about some other regulatory issue that they're having. It's about a school. I tell you, I'm getting a lot of calls about HOAs, and we passed some legislation to address that. So I think, I'm not gonna give, my opponents any, inside baseball knowledge kind of thing. But if you singularly focus, if you think abortion is the only thing that voters care about this election cycle, you underestimate the voters, and you're going to lose, because there's not that many people that really that's their driving factor. It's just not. So we'll see. We're trying to be positive and talk about some of the bigger issues, and really talk about what I'm doing to help lower homeowners insurance costs.
Indeed.
And we're now starting to see some impact of the legislation we passed. I know we talked about that quite a bit last time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I was interested because you told us the last time it's an incremental thing. There's no silver, there's no pill that can solve it immediately. So this session you tackled it again. Can you kind of go over what we've improved through this session?
Sure. So it goes back to we had a special session in December of 22 where we passed some tort reform changes. We added more money for hardening your homes that allow people to lower their insurance. Then we went after the assignment of benefits in 23, which is really driving the frivolous lawsuits and the fraudulent claims that were driving everybody's rates up. And that's what most people didn't understand. It's not your $25,000 or $50,000 roof that was impacting rates. It's the $250,000 and $300,000 legal fees that, that the law firms were making off of your roof claim. That's what was driving rates and reinsurance. Your insurance company has insurance. It's called reinsurance. And it wasn't hurricane risk that reinsurance rates were going up. It was litigation risk. So we have passed bills that have reined in those frivolous lawsuits, the assignment of benefits that leads to the litigation. And you know what I'm talking about. Turn your TV on and look at the commercials you see. Drive down the highway and look at all the insurance billboards. These are the folks that on lawsuits. Everybody wants to sue somebody in Florida. And that's what's driving homeowners' rates up. Plus the fact that the value of your home has gone up significantly over the last 5 years. People kind of forget about that. But we passed this legislation. We worked on it again in 2024. We passed a couple of things that are bringing in more competition. We now have what's called surplus lines. That was previously, that's a type of insurance carrier. It's not your USAA and Allstate and State Farm. Okay. This is like Lloyd's of London, these big global type of insurance. They're called surplus lines that can now write policies in Florida, where previously they couldn't. So more competition is good. That's what's driving down rates. In the last 10 weeks, we've had 6 additional new insurance carriers come into Florida, start writing policies. We're depopulating the Citizens, which is the insurer of last resort in Florida. We changed some things so you have to have a homesteaded property, because I tell you, I thought it was egregious that you can have folks that live in Atlanta and they got a second home on the beach at New Smyrna, and we're subsidizing their homeowners insurance in Florida. So we passed that, stopped that kind of abuse. We're creating more competition. There was a little thing on the tax policy that's going to save people it's like $163 on their policy. So there's these, again, little tweaks that we're making that have the cumulative effect of lowering rates. And we also beefed up the regulatory authority and gave more bodies to the Office of Insurance Regulation and the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer's fraud detection unit. Because we do have some bad actors on the insurance side of the house, these insurance companies that are undercapitalized and they deny your claim, that force you to legitimately have to sue them. So we're cracking down on them also big time. And about a month or so ago, I had a chance, right before session ended on the 8th of March, I met with Jimmy Petronas, our Chief Financial Officer, and he said for the first time, so February this year, for the first time in 5 years, we've done an aggregate survey of insurance rates that are starting to see insurance rates across Florida come down. Now that's a total state survey, and that's the first indicator that this previous legislation that we passed is having the impact that we wanted. It's just taking some time because rates are really set on like 2 or 3 past years of data. So we know what we've done is working. I wish it would work faster. And I did have a proposal in the tax package. It didn't get picked up, but could have impacted people's rates immediately in Florida. And I hope to bring that back again next year. But hopefully we'll get through this hurricane season without any major damage. But we are now starting to see the telltale signs of a market that's healed itself, that is going to be working successfully and will bring rates down. And that is new carriers coming into Florida and writing more policies, and the first signs of rates starting to turn the corner. So I'm glad where we're at. I just wish it would have happened faster, and let's all keep our fingers crossed that we get through a hurricane season without getting just run over.
Well, I know that you have a hard break that's going to come up, so I really want to get into the politics for just a moment, because I know you have a tough race, and I want you to be able to reach out to volunteers, to those that might want to donate to your campaign, because you can't do this without the dollars and the boots on the ground. So tell us how we can get involved, or what we need to do in that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. David Smith, I got the easiest name for people to remember in politics. But you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go to my website, which is electsmith28.com. And because normally, like the base of the, on the issues and legislation and, my biography, you can learn about my military history and legislative accomplishments. You can find that on www.electsmith28.com. But if you want to see, well, where's David Smith speaking today and what's coming up, that's really on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on social media. And again, I'm at about every event. So, and I tell you, people we always need volunteers with events coming up, and 407, 542-4361. That's my home phone number. That's my home phone numbers on every business card I hand out, or every palm card we give to people when we're door knocking, and people call me at home, and I answer my own phone. So odds are you're gonna get me. So if somebody wants to volunteer, call and let us know. But I tell you, if you really want to help right now, join my $38 for House District 38 team. We're not trying to take the food off of anybody's table. So we're not looking for big money, $1,000 donors. If you want to help and you want to get involved, then chip in $38 for House District 38. And you can do that through my website. It's completely safe. We don't share your information with anybody. And we use a company called Anodot, and you probably never heard of them because they've never been breached. So they're very good security, and your credit card information is going to be secure. And just join our $38 for House District 38 at my website, electsmith28.com.
Well, I also got to say we were talking as Republicans in a small group, and we were looking at the fact that you're termed out, and we're really interested to see where you go next. So don't think we're not talking about seeing you as a senator or something. So we are talking right now, Representative. So we can't wait to hear about that.
I learned in the Marine Corps, if you lean too far forward, you fall over. So we stay singularly focused on winning in November, letting people know the 27 policy bills I've passed for working families and folks here in Florida, and 61 appropriation projects for education in Seminole County, money for UCF, money for food banks, homeless shelters, mental health counseling, whole host of things, that the work that I've done that I'm proud of. So if you want to be singularly focused on abortion or gambling or some other issue, okay. But if you want to look at who's the person that's getting stuff done for folks in Florida, you got to look at David Smith. And I'll put my record up against anybody's and hope that my accomplishments have earned another 2 years, my last 2 years in the House. And I think where I tell you, seniority matters, and I can be more effective for Central Florida if I'm returned to the Florida House of Representatives.
All right. Thank you,
David.
Thank you, Representative. Yeah, David. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Let's do it again.
Indeed,
Look, hey,
indeed. You've always been good to us, and if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. And we really appreciate it. Thank you for your service, and I love that shirt you're wearing.
And, I had a Marine Corps scholarship to Texas A&M, and so I'm wearing my Aggie shirt. Got to represent, but love the school. I was talking to a group of UCF college Republicans not long ago, and they were shocked when I told them Texas A&M was the only college I applied to, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't have a backup school or a backup to the backup?" Nope.
Yeah.
My father went to A&M, my uncle went to A&M, and I was going to Texas A&M, and that's where my family goes to school. And proud to represent the Aggies here. I am the Aggie caucus in the Florida legislature. Just me. So,
oh, well, I'm going to have to say, charge on. Thank you so much, Representative
Great
Smith,
being
for
with
your
you guys.
time, and I
All right, take
appreciate
care.
Thank you
it.
so much, Representative.